The people that we're supervising are called millennials, at least most of the people that we're supervising. Certainly we have non-traditional students in some of the positions, especially those that are graduate assistants, but most of our student workers and many of our graduate assistants are coming straight out of undergraduate, are in the population called millennials. Now, what is a millennial? You'll hear them called the internet generation, you'll hear them called Generation Y. A new term that I heard recently was called Generation IY, which was literally anybody that's born after 1990. Generation Y, or millennials, tend to be the generation that's born between 1984 and 2002. It is a large generation. It's up there with baby boomers as far as the largest generation. They're 80 million strong. And the thing about this particular generation is that they're certainly all about technology, and they're not afraid of anything when it comes to technology. They're very optimistic. They're very committed to civic duty and making a difference in the community as well as the world. They're very ambitious, idealistic, and quite frankly, a lot of fun, a little mischievous. And one thing I tell people about working with this generation is they have no fear. They ask questions. They're not very easily intimidated. So how does that play into an office setting? Well, one thing I hear from other generations, whether that's Generation X, baby boomers, or the matures or veteran generation, is that they tend to be a little cocky or arrogant, or they walk in from the very minute ready to seize the job. And it could be interpreted as cocky. It could be interpreted as just being very ambitious and wanting to do the very, very best. So we have to have an understanding of this generation and where they're coming from. This slide kind of tells about the strengths of a millennial and then how those strengths are viewed by other people. For instance, the fact that they're very tech savvy and very knowledgeable with technology, many people interpret that to mean, well, they're great with technology, but they're very poor when it comes to face-to-face communication skills. That's true for some millennials because they're so used to looking down and texting, sometimes they don't give you that eye-to-eye contact. And once again, that's where we as supervisors can be very positive and professional and let them know that they need to give people eye contact. Another strength is that they're multitaskers, and they are definitely multitaskers. The thing I love about working with student workers and graduate assistants in my office is that I can just give them numerous things at one time, and they go and they tend to be much faster than me on many of those tasks. That's a strength, but at times it can be a weakness in that they can be so divided that there's a lack of focus. And that's where we as supervisors can come in and help them focus, help them prioritize on what's most important and what's least important, and help them focus on the particular things that you want them to work with at that particular time, and then they'll go after it. You know, this generation does not need information. They need help in processing the information. They have information at their fingertips 24/7. And used to, our role when it came to being a supervisor and working with these students was to provide information. That's a given now. But our role now is to help them process the information that they currently have, help them prioritize it, and help them stay focused on what it is that we need them to do right now. I've given you a handout with just some key things that we can do to help us as we work with millennials. Number one is recognize them as individuals. They think from the minute they walk through the door that they have a great deal to bring to our office, and they do. So recognize them as individuals and recognize the fact that they want to contribute and allow them the opportunity to do that, which leads to the next point is ask their opinion. They're not afraid to give it, and most of the time they're going to give it without you asking. But it's important for them to feel a part of your office, and so they will love to give your opinion about what they think the policy should be, or the paperwork, or how you do a particular thing in your office, and maybe how you could do it better. And quite frankly, some of their suggestions are going to be very good. Provide accurate and timely feedback. Feedback is extremely important to this generation. They need to know that they're doing a good job in your particular area. If you don't tell them, they'll ask. I recently had a student in my office leave a little sticky note on my computer, and it said feedback, question mark, question mark. And I chuckled. I had been so busy, I really hadn't given much notice or much thought to communicating to this student, but it was apparent that this student needed to hear from me how he was doing. So I commended him for leaving the sticky note on my computer, and then I took the time to sit down and let him know what he was doing well, what he needed to work on in his position in our office. So feedback is very, very important to this generation. Reward their good work with either time off or with something that's important to them. And if you've done the personal information sheet, maybe you know that they love Twizzlers and Gatorade, so the next time you're out, you get some Twizzlers and Gatorade, and you leave that on their desk to let them know that they've done a good job in your office. Maybe they have worked extra hours in the evening or on the weekend, so you tell them that the next week they can leave early on a Friday afternoon. What I've learned with millennials is time off is huge. If it's 30 minutes or an hour to leave early, that makes a difference. And if you have the opportunity to do that and the capability of doing that, I suggest that you go for that, because that's a huge motivator to these students. It's important that you give information in short, rapid bursts. You have to realize that they're used to getting information in short, rapid bursts. I recently went to a conference, and millennials were called the TGIF generation, meaning Twitter, Google, Instagram, and Facebook. And how utilizing those 4 areas of technology, they're used to just sharing information very, very quickly and receiving information quickly. So therefore, if I'm going to explain a procedure or a policy to a millennial, I need to do it in 2 or 3 key points and keep it short, and then allow them to ask questions. Next is to provide recognition frequently. This is the generation that has all the medals and the trophies and has been encouraged and affirmed all their life, and they expect that in the workplace as well. Now, I'm not saying that every single day you just overflow with praise, but you look for opportunities to catch them doing something right and use that as an opportunity to give them recognition for what they are doing right. And what you will discover is that that will motivate them, that will affirm them, and it will come full circle around back to the quality of work that they do in your office. So help them to prioritize and achieve what it is that you want them to achieve in your office. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, how they're used to multitasking. So you've got to help them focus on what's most important and stay focused on what it is that you want them to achieve at the time. And realize that their motivations are different from yours. And that's anybody, not just the millennials. The goal of a good supervisor is to determine all the people that work around you, what motivates them, and to make sure that you're providing those motivations for your employees so that they do their job and they feel good about their positions. Just some things to think about when it comes to understanding the millennial generation. Once again, a wonderful group of students. They have lots of energy, lots of ideas. They're tech savvy to the point to where anything you need, they will come to the rescue and be glad to provide services in that area. And my response and suggestion to all supervisors is seize that expertise.